Pop Sugar guest interview time with Dr. Dupinsky. I'm so excited. So, of course, like you heard in the intro, you guys know him from Teen Mom and Celebrity Rehab and Sex Rehab and Dr. Drew on Call, Loveline, your podcast. You are who you are today because of your expertise as a physician. So what initially made you want to become a doctor, and what did you love most about that?
Boy, that's actually a more complicated question than you might imagine. My dad was a doctor, my uncle was a doctor. It was always sort of talked about, oh, you'll follow in your dad's footsteps. And then I went off to college and had my ass thoroughly kicked and thought, I am not up for this. I got to do something else. And I think in retrospect, I wasn't mature enough to really dedicate the effort I needed to. So for about a year, I just screwed around, did all kinds of other things, music, and
music, you guys. He's like, aren't you a trained opera singer?
Yeah. It's crazy. That year, I really put in some time with that kind of thing, and I would go to West Germany and study opera, all kinds of crazy ideas. And I think, God, I'm a horrible musician, guys. So my son and daughter are good musicians.
That's true. Yeah.
But I eventually kind of found my way back to science, and I was like, oh yes, that's right. This feels much better. This is more for me. And then really, I sort of owned it then. It was mine.
Wow.
And loved medical training. I remember every day at the end of the day, I'm like, I feel so good. I'm like, this is really exciting doing something. I loved residency.
Right.
I liked all that.
And helping people. I mean, I know I've gotten to know Dr. Drew over the past 6 months, and you're such a caring person, almost to a detriment, right?
Yes, almost to a fault. And in fact, so I went from really enjoying the science part to enjoying the caretaking part, and really the sharing of the human experience to a really novel perspective, which I can't imagine living without. But I had to do my own therapy to work on the caring piece, because I would get so involved that people would take advantage of me.
Yeah.
And so, people would call at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, all
night.
that.
And he would answer.
Yeah.
And he wanted to help everybody.
Yeah. And so it took a little time to work. And then I worked in a psychiatric hospital where a really manipulative patient would manipulate me, and I'd get confused by that. Wow. And so it took then I became very, very good at dealing with those kinds of patients, because then I could still care, but really understand.
You had the boundaries.
Had the boundaries and understanding what they were up to and how I was responding. And I could read these things. I could use them. They could actually inform me diagnostically about what was going on, how I reacted.
Wow. So. And then recently you've become an advocate. You've opened up about also being a survivor of prostate cancer,
yes.
which is incredible. I applaud you for speaking out.
What am I a survivor of? I'm about to go survivor.
It's amazing. But what was that like to go from being doctor to patient?
It was a mixed experience. I at first, the reason I became a patient is my wife forced me to become a patient.
You had no idea. No symptoms?
I had an illness that seemed more severe to her. So she had an instinct. I had like a flu that I got really wiped out by. And she was like, "This doesn't seem right to me. You're going to get an internist." I'm like, "I'm an internist. I'll go see the infectious disease guy. Don't worry about it." You're going to get a physical. So I got a physical. PSA went up a little bit. Still normal, but it went up a little bit. My guy was being super compulsive. Go see a urologist. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, I'm gonna kill my wife. And then they like, oh, it's not getting better. We need to do a biopsy. I'm like, oh, for God's sakes, come on now, everybody. This is like such overkill. Cancer. And by standard guidelines, I never should have had a PSA. I never should have been pursued like that. I never should have had a biopsy. And then that was a low-grade tumor, it turned out. Mm-hmm. So what do you do with that? We don't even know with the low-grade guys in my age group whether you should operate, do radio. It's very unclear what the right approach is, because the operations, it's a big operation.
Yeah.
It's a big operation. It was a brutal.
And he only took a week off from Dr. Drew on Call. That's it. God. He came back, and then we had a really heavy week that week, because was it the Zimmerman trial?
Yeah, I remember I had to lie down in commercial breaks and stuff. It was awesome. I just sit there and lie back.
And never complained. Like, we would notice it because he's laying down.
I complained to the executive producer.
Okay, our executive producer.
I think you deserve that.
Yeah, I think you deserve that too.
But anyway, it was a brutal operation. Everything's fine, it seems like. And I got the first year tells you whether you're for sure good.
Right.
But it was the good news is these operations used to be 3 weeks in the hospital.
Wow.
And real serious problems with functioning afterwards. And I got nothing. Everything's normal. So.
Love it. Love it. Happy to hear it. And then you alluded to the fact earlier that we can talk a little bit about Teen Mom here, and I'm excited because a little bit.
MTV freaks out when I talk.
Okay, so we're gonna be gentle with this one. So the premiere of the reunion is tonight.
The first episode one. Usually they'll divide it 2 girls one night, 2 girls the other.
Oh my
and I will say, I think I was watching what people were twittering. I haven't seen the promos for the show yet.
Okay.
But it seems like it's going to build.
We have a lot of Teen Mom fans on this show.
Week 2, it gets very intense.
What is it like working with the Teen Mom girls?
You know, you got to remember, it's a very strange thing because think about what I'm doing. I'm hosting a talk show where these girls are reunited and we discuss their experiences. And I study what they've been through, and I talk to the producer and I talk to the girls beforehand, and we get them psychologists and we get the kids psychologists, and we really, the MTV puts a lot of resources into them.
So amazing.
Good to know. And I develop a relationship with them by virtue of hosting a show, not being their doctor.
Right.
You know, and so people think I'm like taking care of them or that I don't produce the show either. It's not my show.
Yeah.
I just host a talk show where we relate. And I make myself available to them. Some of them, do
they call you and stuff?
Some do, some do. And I'm happy to help them and guide them and talk to their family and stuff.
That's amazing.
But I'm not their doctor. You
know
what I mean?
I think that's important for people to know.
Good to know. Because a lot of people, just assume. Or
No, I mean, it's a talk show, and I see them one day every year or two during that day.
Though, to have somebody that has your expertise and your background.
And we really do try to dig into important territory. And we tried to make, because the reason I agreed to do it is I know how people that are sort of the age of your fans, how their behavior gets shaped, not through information. I'm like me talking at you like this. What's that going to do? Nothing. But you having somebody like Amber going through what she went through, or Macy, or any of these girls, you can relate. I'm trying not to mention the ones that went off the rail, but at least their experiences as teen moms.
Amber's had a great recovery. Like
she was actually a inmate advocate. She was actually teaching in the program. She's going to get out and be great. But the point is that you guys get relatable sources, relatable stories. That changes your behavior. You're smart. You see these girls going through this, and you go, I don't want to do that necessarily. Me saying that's going to happen to you, not going to change your behavior.
Right. What's interesting, though, is that I learned this on your show when we were talking about, I think it was Amber recently, that teen pregnancy is down.
Way
down.
It's been in 60 years.
I didn't know. That's amazing.
And it really started accelerating when this show hit the air.
Yeah,
and
because they're learning from these stories.
And now I don't know if it's good for the girls that were in it necessarily. They'll have to tell you whether that was a good or a bad thing for them. I think most of them feel like it was a good thing. Even Amber feels like, she was a severe drug addict.
Right.
That was not a function of television. And thank God she had the moment of insight where she begged the judge to throw her in jail and put her in a program. Because she was. You don't know this?
This is really good to know, because I honestly just assumed that kids would watch this type of show and say, oh, if I get pregnant, I can have my own reality show. It's not the case. See, that's so good to know. So thank you for letting us in.
Initially, I shared that same thought too. And then when I went on Dr. Drew on Call,
I was like, the numbers are good.
Though, but you need to drive that home because we need to know those things. And the teens out there need to know that as well.
If you have any questions, check out the National Campaign to End Teen and Unwanted Pregnancy. That's a campaign that's been around for 50 years. And now they feel as though the programs like this MTV program and with the things they've been doing have really had the desired effect.
Wow. Any questions for Dr. Drew?
That was all of them. I'm just learning so much.
Ask her about Loveline, the craziest question.
What's the craziest question you've ever gotten on Loveline?
Sam, why'd you make him ask that? Because you wouldn't ask that.
I love it.
So
favorite.
Well, it's not about favorite so much. Because it's just like here, if you tried to say what was your favorite story, you're doing these every day, it's hard to recall one that stands out. Even though you may have if you really thought about it, or if somebody reminded you of the ones, you'd go, oh yeah, that was that one. But so when people started asking Adam and I this back when it was Adam and I, and by the way, we're still doing podcasting together. Check out Adam and Drew podcast at iTunes or adamcole.com.
Yeah.
But we picked one that really caught our attention, and we've been sort of using that one as our most memorable call.
What is it?
What was the guy? We had our most funny call was with Tom Arnold, which was forget that one. Okay. But our most memorable was a guy named Jim, and he called up James, and he called up and he had kind of a cold quality in his voice, like a detached quality. It was kind of immediate, like you get a feeling from the callers right away. And he goes, listen, you guys run an open forum here, and you have dispassionate, open ideas about things, and I just thought I'd get your opinion because I don't understand why people freak out about my monogamous, committed, intense, intimate relationship with my partner. And she kept going on about this love and this relationship. Well, who's your partner? What's the problem? Well, Brutus, my Akita Collie mix. No, and he was dead serious. And he had not only was he having sex with the dog, he taught the dog to have sex with him. Oh. And
That angers me.
Well,
because
right,
the dog
that's
doesn't
right.
enjoy a big old penis in him.
No, I think it was more the other way,
Okay.
going the other way for the most part. But yes, most of all of our staff had this reaction. Furious anger, and Adam. But listen to this. So Adam turned it on them after about, because we kept him on the phone for like an hour. We were fascinated by this guy, and there's a whole zoophilic this stuff out there. It's bad. I think it's
furries.
No,
that's
not
different.
at all.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is people that,
right, now
as
that
best I
disturbs
can
me.
tell, these are people that were severely deprived in early childhood. Like so humans don't have much more of a meaning to them than a chair or anything else. They're just, they don't really appreciate the agency of humans. But anyway, so thankfully they're not, but they aren't sociopathic. They don't damage people. They just don't have a valence for humans. Adam turned it on our staff because they were just furious. He goes, look, you're so angry about this. On this show every night we talk about children getting physically and sexually abused. You don't get upset about that. And he goes, and by the way, this is the comedy. He goes, and by the way, would you rather be Brutus or a husky pulling the sled in the Iditarod? You guys aren't so mad about that. Brutus doesn't have it so bad by comparison. And I thought, well, okay.
That's really funny.
Wow, I'm sure you get some hair-raising stories. That's insane. And then finally, I want everybody to please continue to check out Dr. Drew on Call on HLN. You'll see me on the show. Of course, Dr. Drew, it's his show. And it's a really great show, and I know a lot of you have already tweeted me your thoughts, and I really appreciate you guys.
Please, we'll take their input, too.
Yeah,
If they have stories, we are
true.
open to it.
Bert, our executive producer, who I love, Bert's
Standing
here today. He's the best man ever. He's hilarious. He met a couple of our fans at an event that we had, and they watched the show. And in fact, I think that they were going to talk to Bert about giving some feedback.
Good.
And I think you guys will like it now more because we are gearing more towards pop culture.
Yeah.
So, and our angle, of course, with his expertise and some of the panelists that come on is looking at the behavior of Mayor Ford or Miley Cyrus, and then we also look at viral videos and what's trending. So I think that our fans are really going to love it. So make sure that you tune into HLN, Dr. Drew on Call at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday. Right. And then your podcast, as well as the Adam and Drew podcast.
That's good. It's good enough.
Okay, good. We've got a lot going on here. All right. So thank you, Dr. Drew, and we'll see you all next time on Pop Sugar.